The last thing I recall was my sister showing me something stupid on her phone. A video, maybe. Something funny. We were both curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, too tired to finish the movie. The remote was lost between the cushions. Her phone's glow flickered, then went dark. Upstairs, our parents had already gone to bed. It was a warm summer night. One of those nights where everything feels safe, where you forget that bad things can happen to people like us. I was 14. My sister was 17, and we lived in the kind of house where you believed the worst thing you could lose was the TV remote. When I woke up, the room was black. The TV was off. The house was still. That kind of stillness that makes the fridge hum sound like a scream. I looked around. The shadows were thick, and the silence sat heavy on my chest. My sister was still curled beside me, breathing soft, totally unaware. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, and that's when I noticed it. The front door, it was open. Just a crack. 6 inches, maybe. Just wide enough for the night air to seep in and for something else to slip through. Outside was a footprint. Fresh, muddy, pressed into the welcome mat like it didn't belong, and just inside another one. The dirt trailed across the floor like a silent announcement. Someone is already here. Then I heard it. Behind me. A creak. Wood shifting under weight. The floorboard. That old one near the hallway. The one that always gave us away during midnight snack runs. Only now, we weren't the ones stepping on it. When I turned, he stood in the hallway, still and silent, wearing a black ski mask. A bat hung loose in one hand, like he'd held it many times before. He didn't speak. He didn't flinch. Just stared, or seemed to. I couldn't see his eyes. The shadows inside the mask made him look empty. Not like a person, but more like a shape that shouldn't be there. Then a second figure appeared. He stepped out of the kitchen with the same mask, but this one held a rope. I stayed still, frozen. My heart felt like it was trying to escape through my throat. They didn't move quickly, didn't shout, didn't bark orders like in the movies. They moved like they'd done it all before. One of them turned his head toward the couch, toward my sister. She shifted, mumbled something, still asleep. He walked toward her, slow, measured, like a man approaching something he already owned, and I knew if I didn't scream right then, I'd never see her again. My sister stirred beside me, still half asleep, completely unaware of what was already standing over us. The man with the rope walked toward her, slow, deliberate, like a hunter who already knew the animal couldn't escape. I opened my mouth and screamed. Everything moved fast after that. The man lunged, grabbed me by the arms. I barely fought. He was too strong. He zip-tied my wrists, slapped duct tape across my mouth. I looked up in time to see my sister fighting. She fought back, kicked, screamed, and bit, which made them slam her to the floor. I heard a crack and saw blood from her nose hit the carpet. That's when my parents came running. My mom screamed my name. My dad shouted something I don't remember. But it didn't matter. The intruders already owned the house. They dragged my dad to the basement. I heard his voice vanish behind a heavy door. My mom and sister were taken upstairs. And me? They threw me in the laundry room and locked the door. I sat there, on the floor, zip ties digging into my wrists. My knees pulled tight to my chest and I listened. My father was crying. My mother was begging. My sister was screaming. And then the silence hit. Not calm, not relief, but the kind that only comes when something has gone horribly wrong. It settled over the room like smoke, thick and choking. Breathing felt dangerous, like if I inhaled too deeply, I'd drown in it. Every few minutes, I heard footsteps outside the laundry room. They moved slowly, like someone checking something. I stopped hoping they'd open the door, and started hoping they'd forget I existed, that I'd vanish in the dark, that I'd disappear between the walls. One of them paused right outside the door and just stood there, breathing. Then I heard it, a splash, a stream hitting carpet. At first, I thought it was water, but the smell, it was gasoline. They moved through the house like they'd done this before. No panic, no rush. One of them was on the phone asking about ATM withdrawal limits. He said, "We'll have them pull out the cash in the morning." Then I heard him laugh. "We just need the time to burn." Burn? Time passed. I don't remember falling asleep again, just like I don't remember waking up the first time. But then I woke up choking. The air was bitter, thick, full of chemicals. I screamed into the duct tape, kicking the door over and over, but nothing gave. Then a pop, then another, and the smell of gasoline got worse. Somehow the door broke. Maybe someone opened it, or maybe I was just lucky. I still don't know. But the second it did, I ran, my hands still bound, mouth still gagged. Blind, coughing, burning, calling my sister's name in muffled screams, calling for my mom. But no one answered. I stumbled out onto the lawn, barefoot, covered in soot. The duct tape still half hanging off my face, and I collapsed. The neighbors said I passed out before the sirens arrived. They pulled 3 bodies from the ashes. My father, they said he died trying to fight. My mother and sister didn't make it. I still can't read the full report. The fire destroyed most of the evidence. The men were caught just hours later, trying to buy coffee. Like it was just another day, like none of it had happened. It's been 6 years now. I sleep with the lights on. I flinch when I hear footsteps, and I never, ever leave the door unlocked. People say monsters aren't real, that they're just stories, just nightmares. But the ones that came into our house, they didn't just crawl out from under the bed. They turned the doorknob and walked right in. I was 16 when we moved into that house. 2 stories, blue shutters, white porch swing that creaked even when no one sat on it. It was the kind of place people called charming, like something out of a picture book. My dad had gotten a new job, so we moved to a smaller town for a fresh start, new neighborhood, new bedrooms. And for the first few weeks, everything was fine. We laughed about how creaky the floorboards were, how the pipes groaned at night like ghosts, how you could sometimes hear voices through the walls, even though the neighbors weren't close enough for that to make sense. We told ourselves it was the plumbing, or maybe just our imaginations getting carried away. But then, before we knew it, things started happening. It started with little things we couldn't explain. It started with my stuff going missing. Nothing big, just small things like a lip balm, my hairbrush, an earring. At first, I thought maybe I was just being careless. I checked my backpack 3 times, only to find it in a place I swore I hadn't touched. Until one night, I found my missing notebook in the kitchen freezer. Frost clung to the corners, the pages warped from the cold. My name still scrawled on the front in Sharpie. I didn't put it there. I know that. Then my mom started noticing things too. Her favorite sweater went missing. She tore the closet apart looking for it. 2 days later, it showed up again neatly folded over a dining room chair. She didn't remember putting it there. None of us did. We laughed it off, blamed it on the house ghost. We said it must be playing tricks on us. But underneath the jokes, something felt off. Not scary, but just wrong. Like the air in the house had changed. Like someone else was there, but out of sight. At night, I started waking up to sounds. Not loud, but more like movement. Like someone shifting their weight on old floorboards. I'd lie still, holding my breath, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was just the house settling. But it didn't feel like that. It felt intentional, like someone knew I was awake, and they were waiting for me to move. I told my parents, but my dad blamed the pipes. "Old house," he said, while my mom chalked it up to stress. I tried to believe them, until one night, I found things I couldn't explain. It was late. Everyone else was asleep. I went to grab a pair of socks from my dresser, but when I opened the drawer, all I saw was a candy wrapper. It wasn't mine, and not a kind anyone in the house eats. It was old, faded, crinkled, but opened carefully. Someone had taken their time. I picked it up, feeling a chill crawl up my arms. And that's when I saw it. Inside the drawer, scratched into the wood, were 2 letters, light but visible. H-I. It wasn't written, but was carved with something sharp. I stood there, frozen. The air around me suddenly felt too still, like whoever did it might still be near. The next day, I asked my little brother if he was messing with me. He swore he wasn't. Then he asked me something that made my skin crawl. "Do you ever hear someone laughing in the vents?" I didn't answer, because I had once, late at night. A soft, whispery chuckle. I thought it was my imagination. Until now. I was looking for my phone charger. It had vanished again. I checked my desk, my nightstand. Nothing. So I bent down to look under my bed. And that's when I found the note. Folded neatly. Lined notebook paper. The handwriting was shaky and uneven, like someone wrote it fast or with trembling hands. I unfolded it, and right there, in dull pencil, "I like your hair when it's down." I froze. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Then I read the next line. "You shouldn't cry so much. They don't deserve it." That's what broke me. Because I hadn't cried around anyone. No one knew about the argument I had with Mom earlier that week. How I locked myself in the bathroom and tried not to make a sound. How did they know? I showed it to my parents. They stared at it, then at each other. Dad said it had to be a prank. Maybe one of my friends is playing a joke. Mom said we'd change the locks just in case. They told me to lock my windows, to stay calm and ignore it. So I tried. I really did. But then it got worse. I started noticing movement. Not directly, just at the edge of my vision. A flicker of shadow in the mirror. Curtains that swayed without wind. reflections where nothing should be. My cat stopped sleeping in my room. She used to curl up at my feet every night. Now she sat outside my door, just sat there, staring. And one night, she scratched at the wall. She clawed at it like something was inside, growling. It went on for 5 minutes. Then, silence. Except for a sound I'll never forget. A cough. It wasn't from the hallway or the vents. It came from inside the wall. I pressed my ear to it after waiting, and there it was again. A soft scraping, like fabric shifting, like something or someone crawling just inches from where I stood. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I checked my room, every corner, every crack, and that's when I saw the vent in the far corner. It looked off, slightly tilted, like someone had opened it and forgotten to tighten the screws. I got a chair, climbed up, and unscrewed the vent cover slowly. Behind it, nothing at first. Just darkness. A narrow cavity between the walls. But then, I saw something taped to the inside panel, which was a photo. It was a photo of me, taken from inside my room. I was sitting on my bed, wearing the hoodie I wore just last week. The angle, it came from the closet, from the inside. Someone had been standing behind the door, watching me and taking pictures. I dropped it immediately and ran downstairs. This time, my parents didn't brush it off. The police searched everything, the attic, the basement, all the doors, all the vents, and finally, they opened the wall behind my bedroom. That's when they found it. There was a small crawl space, big enough for a person to crawl through, and inside was 1. A blanket crumpled in the corner. 2. Fast food wrappers. 3. A few empty soda bottles. 4th, a Polaroid camera. 5. A backpack. Inside the backpack was my missing stuff. The note, my mom's sweater, and a burner phone. The cops said someone had been living in our walls for weeks, maybe longer, watching us and listening, slipping out when we weren't home, sleeping just feet away from me. Then finally, they arrested a 17-year-old runaway. He'd lived in the house before us. He hid during the open house, stayed quiet when we moved in. Then he started watching. It's been over a year now. We moved. We changed the locks. We installed cameras in every room. But I don't sleep well anymore. I still check every vent, every crack, every closet, at least twice. Because no matter how safe a house feels, you never really know who's already inside.